everybody, it's late at night, past midnight. But I'm going to do this now. So I have vlog style, non-spoiler reviews where I just come on pretty much right after finishing the book and I tell you what happens in the book in a non-spoiler way and what my thoughts and feels are on it. All of these books, I've already posted my spoiler recaps, so if you've already watched those, you've been spoiled about what I've read this week. But I am participating in 2 readathons. One of them I really like because I can be a mood reader, and that is Realmathon. So how it works is there are 18 positive prompts where you can earn points for your team, and then there are 18 negative prompts where you can earn points to attack another team. So my strategy is to just compare and see what's going to do the best. So far, of all the books, it's been positive points. I haven't had a book that had enough of the prompts that it was hitting on negative to attack, but I really do want to start going on attack mode. And I feel like everyone's going to be attacking Inya simply because they're the fantasy team, they're the big team, so I actually don't find them to be a threat. And I was correct because the clues that came out confirmed that Inya, or Anya, whatever it's called, is losing. Which is what I suspected because they're so big and they're going to have people on their team that don't submit any books or only read 1 or 2. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just what I've seen years on BookTube. Anytime there's one of these things, it's usually an underdog that wins. There was one year that I was on a fantasy team where we won. But it's rare. It's rare. So I chose to be on Team Sanctum, which at one point was the smallest team. And then there's Team Cyrus, which is the romance team. That's the one I think people should start attacking because romance readers are voracious, plus the average page count for that genre is one of the smaller genres. And so being able to get through the books quicker, but also just being a more hungry reader, I think is really going to help them. But they're also not the biggest team, so I don't think people have seen them as the biggest threat yet. They thought that that Inya was, so they attacked Inya. And then the other team, I forgot what it's called, Ilia or something like that. I don't know. It's the nonfiction science fiction team. Now, so there it's interesting because you've got all of the nonfiction readers have to be in that group if they're picking by their genre because that's the only place nonfiction fits. And I think those readers don't read as much books, and the books that they do read are small, and because they're nonfiction, they're not going to hit a lot of these prompts. It's going to be hard for them to rack up the points, so I just don't see them as a huge threat. So yeah, I picked the team that I think could win, but is also the underdog, and that is Sanctum. We are the mystery, thriller, spooky vibes, paranormal, that sort of thing. The other reason why I liked it is because, so you can get 10 extra points when you read a book that is one of your team's genre, which I don't read a lot of that genre, but paranormal fit in there too, so that's really cool. So I would like to. I read 1 spooky book this month, so I might read the next one to it. But anyway, the other way you can do it is if you're not reading your team book, you can read a book that is multi-genre. So here is the strategic reason for joining Sanctum. And you can still join, by the way. It's not too late. You can join until the day that the sucker ends. You're good to go. You just input all your stuff. So with Sanctum, it's awesome because I can read any sci-fi fantasy. That'll work because the caveat is that if it's a multi-genre, one of the genres cannot be your own team. So I was like, if I had picked fantasy, that would have been hard because the multi-genre would have probably been sci-fi fantasy. See what I'm saying? Romance literally goes with everything. So I'm like, not strategic for that. So I was like, by going with the sci-fi, by going with the mystery, thriller, paranormal, I'm only really sacrificing like romance that would be added with that. So I've still got all these other options. So I've already had some mashups. I read 2 books that were like a dystopian romance. Sadly, I forgot to log it one of the times, so I didn't get those 10 points, and then also I didn't understand what they meant by indie, so I didn't get 10 points for another book. So there's like 20 points extra that I've earned that I didn't record, because I think of indie as like myself, self-publishing, just in a more professional way, like getting a cover designer, having your book edited. That's how I think of indie publishing. So I do distinguish between indie and self-pub, because self-pub just has like a bad name to it, and I kind of loop people in there that don't, like, they do their own covers, they don't edit their books, they just plop stuff out, or they're hobbyists. They're not trying to make a career out of it. They don't have a business mindset. They just want to put their book out there. There's nothing wrong with any of those things, but that's just not me. So I do set myself apart along with what I'm seeing as like indie now, as most people are the professional type, with high quality products that are competitive with traditionally published books. But anyway, the way that it works for the readathon is what they mean by indie is either indie the way I see it, like self-published included, and small publishers. So anyone that's not one of the big 5. So you've got to check to make sure whatever your publisher is not an imprint of another. So like for instance, Tor, I thought that was like its own thing, but it's actually an imprint of Macmillan, so it doesn't count. But Darcy Coates, apparently all of her books are indie. So I'm like, well, I didn't get those 10 points. But anyway, so again, I am on Team Sanctum. My strategy is to attack the romance team. But I'm only doing that when the negative points equals more than the positive points. So it's really just a game of chance. I don't know what it's going to be until I finish the book, whether it's going to be an attack book or if it's going to be a defend book. So far, I've done really good for my team, and I've defended with 4 books and racked up quite a few points doing that. So for book 1, Nowhere But Here, that was 39 positive points for Team Sanctum. It also fits the Orilium prompt of 2 letters in the title. So, because here and where have 2 E's. There's a bunch of E's on that cover. So that's how I did that. And the prompts that it fit, as far as point-wise, to get like maximized points for the Realmathon, was I was able to spell my name on the cover, and you probably will be too, because there's also, she said you can include the blurb, like where another author like recommends it. So there's lots of words on there that you can look at, because there's also a Thunder Road novel at the bottom that you can use. So that got me 6 points, and then I got 5 points because it was a new to me author. I hadn't read one of her books before. 3, it's underrated. I've never seen anyone talk about this series ever, which is strange. Another 3 points because it was YA, and another 2 points because it was multi-genre. And it was 496 pages, so that was an additional 20 points because of the page length. So 19 points for my prompts, and then 20 points for that. And this is a romance thriller mashup, so I couldn't use it as a mashup because thriller goes with Sanctum, but if you're in sci-fi or fantasy, you can get those extra 10 points for the mashup. Alright, then we move on to the next book, and that is going to be The Ravenous Dead by Darcy Coates. So this one was 304 pages, so I got 10 points for page count, and then I got 10 points for it being an indie published, and then I got 22 points for the regular prompts. So this was worth 52 points. So highly recommend reading this book. So what did I get? 6 points. I had my name in the title. Well, just on the front cover, anywhere on the front cover. 5 points for an emotion, because ravenous is an emotion. It's like hunger, which is an emotion. There was even someone that was asking about hunger, and everyone was like, yes, that's an emotion. It's a feeling. If you can say, I am, and then put the word beside it, I feel like that's your emotion. If someone was like, how are you feeling? And you could answer with that word, it's an emotion. Like, I'm ravenous, I'm feeling ravenous. But anyway, so 5 points for that, and then 3 points for underrated. Before starting this readathon, I didn't even know other people knew of Darcy Coates. But, so now I know that people do know of her, but I hadn't heard anyone mention this book in particular, so I haven't seen anyone talk about it. But apparently she's a lot more popular than I thought, so she's not underrated, but that particular book is. And then 2 deals with history, because they are solving a murder, and they're trying to link this person with this unmarked grave to his unresolved issues, and those unresolved issues take place 100 years previously, so it does deal with history. And then it also has light on the cover, which is moonlight. So some people were even using fire and lightning, which I hadn't thought of, but I was like, does moonlight count? And then I was like, it has a light in the title, moonlight. So I was like, yeah, 6 points for me. And then as far as the Orilium readathon, that one is matte close to color of the cover. So the day that I spent the majority of my time reading this book, and the day that I finished it, I'd filmed it, so I double checked, and I was wearing green that day, and there's green on the cover. It's kind of like a teal blue green, but it's green. If I had to pick one between blue or green, I would put it in green. But anyway, so yeah, I liked getting it there. I could have technically used it as recommended by a friend, because my friend recommended, well, she bought it for me, so obviously that's a recommendation. She wants me to read it. She bought it for me. My birthday. But anyway, so that's The Ravenous Dead. And then the next one I read was Breaking Point by Kristen Simmons. This one was 416 pages, which made it 20 bonus points just for that. Plus, it is a dystopian romance, so that's another 10 points. And then it was 18 points for my prompts. I could have gotten 16 for attack, but again, I just go with whatever does the most. And so the prompts that I got for that was light on the cover, so that was 6 points. My name was on it, that's 6. And then 3 for being underrated, and 3 for being YA. It did not fit a 5th prompt. Unfortunately, it did fit 5 on the attack, but it was worth 2 less points, so I didn't do that. So that was really good. So that one was a total of 48 points. Pretty good, considering it wasn't even in my teen genre. I probably could have counted it because it's also like a thriller, but I didn't because it's not spooky. And then we have also, it fit the prompt of target length between 489 and 415 pages. So funnily enough, the paperback is 416 pages, which doesn't count, but the hardback is 400 pages, so it does count. So I'm like, as long as one of the editions, I know to check them all, and I always go with the highest one to get the most points, but it works for that prompt either way, because the other edition was less. so anyway, then we move on to the 4th and final book, which was 3. This one would also work for the double E, and it would be next to each other, which I don't think you'd really find any other way like that, but I didn't use it for that. Instead, I used it for cover with clouds, clouds on the cover or in the title. So there's clouds in the cover. You can see them. So yeah, I did that. And then for the Sanctum, there was 10 points that were because it was crossover genre, and I got 10 points for the size because it was 384 pages, and I got 18 points for the prompts. So the prompts, I got 3 points for YA, 3 points for underrated, never heard anyone talk about the series, 6 points, I found my name on the cover. I guess my name is long, but it doesn't actually have that many covers. Heater, so it's got 6 letters, and they're common letters. Anyway, and then it also has a light source on the cover. The light is like coming down and like from the buildings and all that stuff. So yeah, that one was 38 points. So one of the lower of the ones, but it's all good. It's all good. So yeah, those are all of the prompts that I was able to fulfill for both of the readathons. I am currently reading 2 books. So I am listening on audiobook to the Tenant of Wildfell Hall, and there was an error. I don't know how to. There's an error on it, and it doesn't have a refresh button, so I'll have to figure that out. But I think I listened to like 2.5 or 3 hours today, so that's really good. I don't know what's going on with it, but anyway. And then I am also reading The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi. So I'm liking that. I'm like 120 pages in. It might not even be finished next week. I'm a slow reader, and it is adult fantasy, so it takes me a while longer to read it. But I believe that's all that I'm in the middle of. I do need to catch up on the Count of Monte Cristo, but it's 1,000 pages. I'm not finishing it this month. I'm not even going to attempt to do that. But I do need to catch up like 300 pages worth because I'm behind for the serialized book club. But without further ado, I'm now going to go into the non-spoiler reviews. Some of them are short. One of them for The Ravenous Dead is like 14 minutes long, so there are timestamps down below if you do want to listen to those non-spoilers. If you were mostly just interested in the readathon and what I read, then now you know. And yeah, if you'll have any suggestions for me based off of what you've seen on my shelf, or if you're taking part and you have found a book that has like 30 negative points or something like that, or probably anything more than 20 negative points would be pretty substantial. I did already look at The Adventures of Amina al-Siraj just based off of what I already have read from it, and I will say that I believe that is going to be my first attack book, because just attack-wise, it's 24. So that's pretty good. And then it's 20 points for the pages, which are positive for the team. So I will most definitely be attacking with The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi when I finish it. And then I have no idea about the Tenant of Wildfell Hall. I don't know that I'm going to get many points for it. It is quite long, though. I think it's like over 400 pages with one of the versions that I looked up was over 400 pages. Other editions said 230, but that's not possible because the audiobook is 14 hours long. So I do believe that it's like 500 pages. And those other editions just have horrible formatting. So it happens. I don't want to see 8-point font. No, thank you. But anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends. Bye! We're going to do a vlog style wrap up for what I've read. Yes, yes, we are. I'd like to try it out and see if I like this format. I don't know if it's going to be a hit or a miss, but I just finished the first book of the month, so it's April 1st today, and I finished and started today, so I'm really proud of that because it's like a full-length novel. Uh, Nowhere But Here by Katie McGarry. So it looks like this, because why do a pop-up? I can just show you. That is the book that we're talking about. And so this one is about a girl who winds up going to the hometown where her parents grew up, her biological parents grew up. And it is her grandmother's funeral. However, her grandmother is still alive, so whenever she sees her in the casket, and then she like pops up out of the casket, she was not expecting that. And so she has a little bit of a freak out. There is definitely even more so reasons why she has a freak out. She has an intense fear of the dark and of woods and of anything that's dead, including like hospitals, anything including death. Because when she was a Girl Scout, she wound up wandering off and she fell into a hole where there had been a body. So she was stuck in a hole in the dark in the woods with a dead body when she was like 8 or 9. So yeah, pretty traumatic. I would have that fear too. But when she gets in town, there's this rival gang, and they've been going head to head. They are an illegal gang, so they operate off of their own set of rules, but they do not abide by the law. They're very violent, and they have their own little schemes and all this other kind of stuff. And the gang that her dad is part of, their biker gang, is legal. So they don't break the law, but they will protect each other. So they do carry guns and they like own a bar and all this other kind of stuff. I really liked the setting. This is a young adult romance. I gave it 5 stars and I absolutely loved the romance element to it. Um, she stays a virgin throughout the whole book, but it was very realistic. She's not a prude. So I'm like, yes, this was me. They're like dry humping. Like, I get it. I get it. I remember being a teenager. So it's like I waited for marriage, but there was definitely dry humping. So there's dry humping. That's in this one. Oh man, they'll be like taking each other's clothes off and laying in bed together with their underwear on, and I'm just like, so yeah. I feel like if you're kind of phasing out of YA, you're tired of YA, you will still like this book. I feel like it's a very good crossover from YA to adult. Not only that, but it's contemporary romance, which a lot of time only has to do with the romance itself and doesn't really have a lot of other plot elements that are happening, and the plot elements that are happening are more so coming of age things that just your average teenager will deal with. This one, no. No. There's the biker gang rival thing that's happening, and so when she shows up, then they are like out to get her. And she doesn't know why they're out to get her. And the family that she hasn't really got to know is keeping a lot of secrets, including the fact that her mother may not have been telling her the truth. Because her mom told her that her biological dad didn't want anything to do with her, and so that's why he wasn't part of her life until she got to be a little bit older, and that she left town after she got knocked up. But the mom is seen as like this traitor, and you don't understand why, because everyone is keeping secrets from her, including the love interest, but he doesn't know the full story. But he also, his parents, they got pregnant with him when they were very young, and they weren't in the right place mentally to be able to raise him. So her grandmother raised him until the parents were old enough and responsible enough to take him in and raise him themselves.
Um, so the gang is like his family. And so he will do anything for the gang. And her father is like the leader of this gang. So he's very respected. And he made a promise to him that he would protect her, um, because she trusts him. And so he does. So he protects her throughout the book. And they're also trying to figure out what's going on with this other gang. And like there's moments where the dad goes out of town, and so they're on high alert. And there's just like cute little romancy things that are happening, but also there's this big plot line as far as the storyline of what happened. Why did her mom actually leave, and why have they been lying to her the whole time? So, super engaging if you like biker gangs and found family and reuniting with family members that you weren't raised with. I think you'll really enjoy this. Um, yeah, I absolutely loved the love interest, Oz. I liked the way that they flirted with each other. They were very direct. And he kind of had a cocky way of things, like, oh, I know you're checking me out right now. Or like, I know you want to kiss me right now. And like, he would literally like just be upfront and tell her like that he found her sexy and all this other kind of stuff. And I was just like, okay, he is not holding anything back. He's not holding anything back. And so she's kind of seen as like this very sheltered person. And so she's not accustomed to this world that he is a part of. And I absolutely loved it. I loved it so much. Oh my goodness, it was so good. So, yeah, that is Nowhere But Here by Katie McGarry. Of course, there's going to be a spoiler-filled recap that is going to be much shorter. That's going to tell you the spoilers. So stay tuned for that if you want to know the details, you want to know what the secret was. Um, but other than that, that's all I have for you for that book.
It's April 4th, and I finished another book. What is that book? Well, The Ravenous Dead by Darcy Coates. So I got this as a birthday present in March of 2022 when it came out. But I had read the first book, The Whispering Dead, a couple of like weeks or a month or so, or something like that, relatively soon. And I was like, I'm one of those readers that I don't want to wait forever for the next book. So I was like, you know what? I can wait a little while to read this one. And then that way it'll be less time for me to have to wait to get into the third book. So I do have the third book up there. It came out in 2022 as well, actually. Huh. Interesting. Oh, no. It came out in March. Right? Yeah, because I pre-ordered before the new year. I think it came out in March. Anyway, irrelevant. So I was like, okay, now it is time. It is time to finally read this book. So I did, and I enjoyed it, and I gave it a 5 stars. So thank you, Britt, for giving me this as a birthday present. It was so funny because she had been talking to me for days about this author whose catalog she had been devouring. And so I don't really read a lot of like horror type, and this is technically like a horror genre. Um, and So it was really funny because then I was like, well, this is what I'm reading. And I took a picture of the first book and sent it to her. And she's like, oh, I just finished that like last week. She's like, that's the author I was talking to you about. So when it comes to horror or like gothic fiction, my BFF has good taste. We write gothic fiction together. That is honestly what this is. It's like a gothic fiction, or paranormal, and it does get dark, but it's also just kind of like cozy small town and friendships. There hasn't been any romance in here yet, so I'm really hoping that we'll get some romance in book 3, because I like Mason. Mason is awesome. Yes, give me some more Mason. I also like
her quirky best friend, Zoe. She's hilarious. So, and even Adage is cool. And he's like this priest. And so in book one, she has amnesia. She's running through the woods. People are chasing her. She doesn't know why. It's raining, and she takes refuge in this church. And Adage, the priest, hides her as these people look for her. And then he has her stay at the groundskeeper's cabin, and there's a mystery that she solves, and she discovers that she has the ability to see ghosts and to help them move on. So she tries to solve their mysteries of like how they were killed, or figure out whatever their unfinished business is, which is very difficult because the ghosts are not vocal. So they don't speak words to her. So they can like nod and gesture and stuff like that, but they can't really do much to help her solve their mystery. So between her and the two friends, who, by the way, did not know in the first book that she has this ability. So she's like having to keep it from them because they'll think that she needs to go to like a psych ward or something like that. But I do want to get into book two. I'm not going to spoil any of the mystery elements. Book two also does not spoil anything really from book one. There are references to characters who were like red herring characters in book one, but technically if you wanted to start with this book, it feels pretty solidly oriented as like a standalone with just a couple of threads that are weaving. But like the main thread of who is she, why are people after her, doesn't get solved in this book. So I'm really excited for the third book. Probably will not be waiting too long to get into it. But I am going to go ahead and tell you about the Ravenous Dead. So in this book, she has found this faceless ghost that she's trying to help pass on. And he has an unmarked grave. So it has the date of death, but it does not have a name. And the death was 100 years ago. So she needs to figure out whose grave this is and what their unfinished business is so that she can help them pass on. At the same time, there is this thing called the Shade, which is basically this evil entity of a ghost that is very powerful and has even been absorbing the energy from other ghosts and can also do so with living beings in order to like grow his territory, because your spirit can only linger so far from either where your resting place is or where you were killed. Wherever you died. You could have died of natural causes. But so this Shade is trying to do that, and because she has amnesia, she doesn't know at first that the Shade is dangerous. She thinks that it can't harm her, but when it touches her, it leaves burn marks. So she's like, oh crap, and then she sees the Shade murdering a ghost, which I know sounds interesting, but like, yeah, it happens in the murders a ghost, like consumes the ghost, rips it apart and everything. And her friend like catches her all beaten up, and she has this cat that like took her to her friend's house, and she didn't know the way, so she was just following the cat through the woods and then wound up at her friend's house. So the cat is like, something's up with this cat. I want to know more about this cat. Okay, so all this is happening, and then this is still the beginning of the book, by the way. Then Adage, which is the priest, asks her to go with him to the hospital because one of his congregation has passed, and he wants to make sure that the soul is not still on earth, because if the spirit lingers in the hospital room where the person died, it's not like Kira will be able to go in there and hang out and figure out what the dude's unfinished business is. So she agrees, even though she really doesn't want to, because when she uses her second sight, which is how she sees the ghost, it can give her like bad headaches, and to be somewhere like a hospital, there's going to be so many imprints from people who have died, that it's just not going to be a great situation for her. It can be very overwhelming. So she goes there. She winds up discovering a new ability that she has, another way that she can help ghosts pass on, which is really cool. She also meets another ghost that makes her like jump out of, well, not jump, but crawl out of a hospital window, where she then sees this black van with a symbol on it. And the one thing that she had with, like, in her pocket when she had lost her memory, like, her one clue was a photo of 3 people, and then on the back it said, like, don't trust the people with scaly skin or something like that. And so when she goes and sees this van, the person catches sight of her, says her name, says that she's still alive because they thought that she had died when they couldn't find her. And so then she runs off into the woods. This is all the beginning setup of this book. So then, of course, they're chasing after her. In the beginning of this book, Adage is the only one that knows about her abilities. By the end of the book, a couple more people know about her abilities, and I loved getting their support because I figured that that would be the case, especially with one character because they're very quirky. Another character I was not expecting to be brought back into the plot, that was a very minor character from the first book, is also a very minor character in this book. However, the presence of this character was just like a nice addition, so I would like to see that character again in book 3. I just like the weirdness. I like the weirdness. The possible love interest that I'm kind of assigning to her is Mason, who came home from medical school to help with his family. And so everybody loves him in town. He is like he's the normal dude, and like all the other characters are very strange. I also like Adage because he's like this pastor, but he's funny. And he's up for all the ghost stuff. It does not freak him out. He actually hires her to stay there in the groundskeeper's cottage to help the souls pass on. He's like, this is part of my job too, but I can't communicate with them. You can. So, like, I will hire you, and we'll say that you're just cleaning the graveyard, but really you're helping these souls pass on. So, that is the setup for this book. That does not get into a lot of the things having to do with the mystery surrounding it. There is a big mystery around a serial killer in here who was identified and who has something to do with the shade entity. So, or at least she supposes that the serial killer might be this shade entity because it is so evil. So, I will say that when it came to the twist in the end, though I did not guess it correctly as far as like the literal things that happen in the twist, but I did guess that the twist was going to be surrounding that idea. I had my suspicions. I had my suspicions, and my suspicions were correct. Just my reasons for why I thought the thing was not what it was in the book, if that makes sense. But I was expecting it, so I felt really proud of myself when I was right. I love guessing in books. I'm like, this is not the end of this. There's gonna be another twist, and there was. There was, and I was here for it. Also, the ending. So that, where another character that does not like her comes and does something destructive, I was like, okay, that I was not expecting. That I was not expecting. But yeah, this book has adventure moments where she is alone in the woods trying to escape from these people that are after her again, as well as moments where she's traveling with her friends trying to solve this mystery surrounding the serial killer. And so, yeah, I love books that do that. Just the setting, the atmosphere of this book is so I don't know how to explain it. It's like, it's cozy. Like, this is a dark book. It's horror. There are moments where she's like touching old blood stains from where people were killed, and like this murderer used an axe, and like she sees it and feels it. And so, like, yeah, it does get gory. It's definitely horror. But, like, the atmosphere itself is just so... It's gothic. It's gothic. That's what it is. So it's, like, it's cozy, but for people that are weird. And I'm a weird person. So I'm, like, cozy gothic. Yeah. I just like the setting. It just feels like fall. Every book feels like fall, and fall is my favorite season. It's kind of dark and moody. I like it. And lots of outdoorsy things that are happening here. So anyway, the title, The Ravenous Dead, is because the shade is ravenous. It is eating, it is consuming the energies of other beings in order to gain strength. So that is where it got its title. The next book is called The Twisted Dead. And there was the word twisted used in this book at one point. So I'm like, was this hinting at book 3 somehow? I don't know how, but was it hinting at book 3? Because I haven't read the synopsis of book 3, so I don't have a clue what it's going to be about. But anyway, this is the book that I just finished. Really enjoyed it. That is your non-spoiler review. I will be doing a spoiler recap in the future with all of the spoils. So look out for that if you want to know what all this vagueness was about. I will be telling you in that short recap. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends, and I will see you all later. If you want to leave me an emoji, maybe do like a grave or something dead. Something dead or spooky. And I'll see you all in the next one. Bye! Bounce! Okay, so I finished another book on the 4th, but I didn't film the non-spoiler review. It's also the second book in the series, so it's going to come with some details about the first book, so just fair warning with that. I do have spoiler-filled recaps already posted where you can listen to the spoiler review for any of these, but the book that I read on the 4th as well was Breaking Point by Kristen Simmons. And so at this point, they have moved into the rebel camp. People are not willing to trust her. She's like dressing up as one of the women that are kind of like part of the whole plan to suppress other women and keep everyone in control. It very much so reminds me of Handmaid's Tale in so many ways. But in this one, she has already left where she had been held. And so now she's having to go to find this safe house, and then when she gets to the safe house, it's like trying to get people to trust her to be able to stay there, and also having to stay off of the radar, because if they find her, they will kill her because she's made them look bad. that is pretty much what book 2 is, non-spoiler wise. I gave it 4.5 stars. You do get to see more of the romance thing happening, and you also get to see the guy that was a soldier in book 1 that like helped her escape. You get to see him having deflected from the military, and so now he is with the people at this safe house as well, and he's wanting to get his girlfriend out of a facility that is nearby. So they're making plans on how they're going to be able to do that, but also Chase and Ember feel kind of crappy because they have to keep a low profile, and they're also endangering other people. So yeah, that is what book 2 is about, as non-spoilery as I can make it. So today is the 8th. So I finished 2 books on the 4th, and I didn't finish another book until now. I finished 3 by Kristen Simmons, which looks like this. Again, spoiler reviews are already posted, so you can go check those out. This is your non-spoiler. So, book 3, it is the 3rd book in a series, so I'm going to keep it non-spoiler for people who have read book 1 and 2, but I can only do so much for you if you haven't started the series. I will say this. People die. Several people die during book 3. This is the end of the series, the end of the trilogy. And it's all about the rebels. And they meet this group of people called 3, which are the ones who are like going on attack mode, and they're fighting to save the country and put it back into the hands of a rightful ruler who is not going to subject them to the same horrors that they're currently facing. So you are in the middle of all of the strategic things that are going on, and Ember has an idea on how she can help the war effort and how she can get the country back. And so I liked her having that idea. I liked the way that they did it. Was it completely logical? No. Because I remember being in the military and like I would get in trouble for not reading my emails because I was like, I need sleep. I'm not going to be checking my email every day. If it's important, someone will tell me. But yeah, so it was a little unrealistic that nobody would be reading certain materials that were being distributed. But I still liked it nonetheless. I thought it was cool. And with the way that this world is set up, and it's a bunch of teenagers, and they don't really have a lot of older people over them, and they also let each other get away with things because they want to get away with those same things, so they like don't rat each other out. Makes it a lot more realistic that they got away with the way that they wanted to cause a revolt. So I'm here for it. I'm here for it. But yeah, I gave this one 4 stars. I also liked that we had a character who had been paralyzed previously in the series, and her love interest is not concerned about that at all. In a good way. Like, it doesn't affect him wanting to be with her, and he makes it very clear to her that that's the case. She does get good news from a doctor that she may be able to regain some of her mobility, which is fine. It wasn't like a magical fix or anything like that. It was a recent injury, and it was from her being beaten. So she's been healing as well. Just like naturally and stuff. So I think the series was fine as a whole. My favorite book of the series was the first one, and I think that was because it was very much so Handmaiden's Tale. You start to kind of get a little bit outside of that when you go into book 2 and 3, and it's more of your regular young adult dystopian, we need to get back our government or restore some rights in some way because things are not shaping up the way they want them to be. That's kind of what book 2 and 3 are. So, not my favorite series. I don't know that I'm going to be rereading it. And having now read 6 books by Kristen Simmons, I don't think I'm going to be reading any more. And I will also probably be unhauling them because they didn't get me emotionally the way I wanted it to be. Article 5 did really good job. It was a 5-star, but it kind of descended from there. And so I just don't think that she's the author for me in particular. But I do think that she's a good author. Okay? You can tell the difference when it's like, it's a you thing, or it's like, no, there's things that this author needs to improve. There's nothing that they need to improve. It's a me thing. I'm phasing out of a lot of YA stories because they don't go as far as I want them to go, or they just don't have the balance that I want. So, like, I want more romance, more tension. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah. So, Yeah, I've read all of the books that I own from her. I still think she's an awesome person. I'm subscribed to her newsletter. She does really cool things for her fans, like giveaways and pre-order campaigns and all that kind of stuff. She's really cool. Um, but yeah, I just don't think she was kind of like an autobiography author, but me having not actually read her books, I just liked her. So I was buying all of her books and I pre-ordered her books and everything. Um, but yeah, I think I'm done. I think I'm done. Sometimes that happens, and sometimes it's with an author that used to be your favorite. So I'm just accepting it, and so I'll probably be unhauling at least. Yeah, I'll probably be unhauling all of them. I just feel like there's other people that would enjoy them more than me, so I don't want to keep them on my shelves. But also, I have signed copies. So if anyone's named Heather who wants to buy them off of me, let me know. But yeah.